Greetings, friends around the world. This is Dr. Bob Thiel for the Bible News Prophecy channel. Could Donald Trump's peace deal of the century plan that was developed by his Jewish son-in-law, Jared Kushner, be related to the fulfillment of biblical prophecy? Could it actually be the deal of Daniel 9:27? Well, before we get to some scriptures, I'd like to read some news reports about this deal that was proposed, or released, if you will, on the 28th of January 2020. U.S. President Trump unveiled his plan to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on Tuesday, nearly 6 years after talks between the two sides had broken down. The plan calls for the establishment of a Palestine state, a key issue for Palestinian leaders who have long called for a two-state resolution to the conflict. After Trump met separately Monday with Netanyahu and his chief political rival, Benny Gatz, Netanyahu said there's a chance to make history and define Israel's borders. Gatz called the peace deal a significant and historic milestone and one he looks forward to implementing if he becomes the next Israeli prime minister following elections in March. So you've got the current Israeli prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who likes it. You have somebody who hopes to be the next Israeli prime minister, Benny Gatz, who's interested in it. And even more than that, there's another politician I'd like to mention. His name is Dr. Rafael Minnes. He's a former member of the Zehut political party in Israel. And on his Facebook page, he wrote, "The Trump statement is the declaration of Cyrus of our days." This is a reference to ancient King Cyrus, who authorized the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. So those things sound, a lot of people like it. Well, actually not everybody is thrilled with the plan. I'd like to show you the map. See, this was released by the Trump administration. It says Vision for Peace Conceptual Map. And there's actually tunnels that are connecting disjointed areas that would end up going to the Palestinians. So this is pretty complicated, and it's going to be tricky to deal with this. Now, as far as the Palestinians go, I'd like to read something from related to the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas. The Palestinian leadership has roundly rejected Donald Trump's long-awaited peace plan for the Middle East, calling it the slap of the century. I say to Trump and Netanyahu, Jerusalem is not for sale, all our rights are not for sale and are not for bargain. And your deal, the conspiracy, will not pass, Mr. Abbas said. But it's not just from Palestinians who don't like it. I want to read an objection that was reported by Breaking Israeli News. Within the deal of the century, the Trump administration's reported proposal to create a tunnel corridor linking Hamas-run Gaza to the Palestinian Authority-run territories would pose an extreme danger to Israel's security, stated Moshe Phillips, Harut North America's national director. The creation of a tunnel highway and railway linking the Gaza Strip to those parts of Judea Samaria that are controlled by the Palestinian Authority would slice across Israel's middle and would connect and therefore significantly strengthen the potential military capacity of these two perennially hostile anti-Israel regimes. Harut North America is a pro-Israel movement that stands for Jewish sovereignty in all the land of Israel, human rights, and Zionist education. At least that's the way they reported there. Now I'd like to read something from the Associated Press and the European Union about this plan. The European Union on Tuesday rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal for securing peace in the Middle East and expressed concern about Israel's plans to annex more Palestinian land. So the European Union doesn't like it. I'd like to read about some others who didn't agree or don't like the plan. This is from the Los Angeles Times. Over the weekend, the 22-nation Arab League unanimously rejected it, despite Kushner's assurances that numerous Arab states were on board. The 57-nation Organization of Islamic Cooperation followed suit on Monday and rejected it as well. But there's also non-Muslims that have rejected the plan for different reasons. The first thing I want to read from is from a Protestant by the name of Michael Snyder. Under Trump's plan, the U.S. would formally recognize a Palestinian state. The Palestinians would be allowed to set up a capital in East Jerusalem and the amount of territory under Palestinian control would double. Not only does Trump want to divide the land of Israel, he also wants to divide up the holy city of Jerusalem. When Barack Obama proposed a two-state solution with the Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem, many conservatives all across America howled in protest. But now that President Trump is proposing almost the exact same thing, most conservatives seem willing to go along for the ride. It literally makes you want to vomit. So this is from a Protestant, doesn't like it. Now I want to read something from an Israeli Jewish rabbi named Adam Elihu Berkowitz, and something that he wrote about it. First, I'd like to read the headline: Why America Might Want to Prepare for Devastating Natural Disaster Following Trump's Peace Deal. President Trump revealed his long-awaited plan for the Middle East, setting off an intense discussion about its implications. But one undeniable historical fact is that any attempt by foreign powers to divide the land of Israel is inevitably followed by massive natural catastrophes, economic disasters, or worse. Well, according to Jesus, places like the United States should expect troubles. That's what is recorded in Mark 13, verse 8. Though he didn't tie them with anything resembling the Trump administration peace plan. Also in Israel, I received an email yesterday from the Temple Institute. They don't approve either. We read what they had to say. Jared Kushner promotes Arab anti-Israel Temple Mount propaganda. In an interview with Egyptian TV, President Trump's son-in-law and advisor, Jared Kushner, praises the deal of the century, attempting to gain Arab support for the plan. At 2:30 in the interview, he begins to discuss the Temple Mount and incredibly endorses the constant anti-Israel and anti-Semitic lies and propaganda that Hamas and Iran and Turkey and the Muslim Brotherhood and the Kingdom of Jordan promulgate on a daily basis in their attempts to undermine Israel's sovereignty over the Mount and incite Muslims to violence. Well, that doesn't sound really promising from that religious group. Speaking of religious groups, what does the World Council of Churches think of this plan? I'd like to read something from Ecumenical News. The World Council of Churches and the Lutheran World Federation, both with churches in the Holy Land, have criticized the proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for regional peace for the lack of consultation in their pitch. World Council of Churches General Secretary Olav Viske-Tisset on January 29th urged the International Committee not to support the Trump-Netanyahu proposal for dividing up Palestine and Israel. He said it's a plan developed with no meaningful participation from the Palestinian people. So we've got Muslims and Arabs and the European Union and even Jews who don't like the plan. But now I'd like to read something related to Turkey's president, Recep Erdogan. Turkey rejected U.S. Middle East plan, which stands for occupation of Palestine and usurping Jerusalem. I talked to Mahmoud Abbas over the telephone and met with Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh face-to-face in Istanbul, Erdogan said in Ankara. Turkey's strong reaction forced some Arab countries to step back from their support of the plan. Unfortunately now, U.S. threatens me and my intelligence chief. In addition, some financial institutions in Turkey are under threat, Erdogan said. So what the President of Turkey is saying is because he was against this plan and was vocal about this, the United States has basically threatened him, as well as the economy of Turkey. And Turkey is very upset about this. People say, well, it's just Turkey. And Turkey, the United States doesn't consider Turkey to be a real threat. But could it be part of one? There's some prophecies regarding this deal that people probably haven't really thought about. If Turkey's upset, maybe they will be part of something the United States won't like. I want to read a prophecy back in the Psalms. 83rd Psalm. I want to start with verse 2, and I want to just read a few verses here. This will be from the New King James. For behold, your enemies make a tumult, and those who hate you have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people, and have consulted together against your sheltered ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. So we see that some group who's upset with some people that they hate, they're going to conspire against something called Israel. Now, this prophecy is not merely talking about the people in the Jewish state that call itself Israel. What most people don't understand is back in the book of Genesis, Jacob, whose name was Israel, given to Israel by God, he placed his name on Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So let me read that just briefly. This would be Genesis 48, verse 16. Israel says, "The angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, let my name be named upon them, and name my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into multitude in the midst of the earth." Having Israel's name be placed upon them, meaning the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh, we see, therefore, that some prophecies regarding Israel are not about the Jewish people. Remember, Israel had 12 sons, and he adopted the two of his two grandchildren from Ephraim and Manasseh, which are Joseph's sons. That made 13. And he put his name on them. So some of the prophecies in the Bible regarding Israel actually are references to the United States and the British descended peoples. We have more information about that you can read at the cogwriter.com website. That's www.cogwriter.com website. Going past that now, let's see what's going to happen according to Psalm 83. Now let's start in verse 5. "For they have consulted together with one consent. They form a confederacy against you. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagarites, Jebel, Ammon and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assyria has joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot." Now the who that have gotten together to conspire and agreed against Israel, in this case meaning the United States and the British descended allies, and probably Israel, the land as well, that includes Turkey, the Arabs, and eventually Europe. The Edomites include the Turks. The Arabs are included among the Moabites, children of Lot, etc., Philistines, Palestinians, etc. And the one called Assyria has got to do with Central Europe. Now, could the Trump deal be a prophesied deal specifically? Well, there is a deal prophesied in the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 9. I'd like to start reading this in verse 26. Many people are familiar with this, but let me read it here. "And the people, the prince who is to come, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it will be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he should bring an end to the sacrifice and offering. And on the wings of abomination will be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured on the desolate." Now, before I go any further about the Trump deal on this, first, the people who destroyed the sanctuary in the city were the old Roman Empire. And Jerusalem and the temple were destroyed in 70 AD. So somebody who's coming from the old Roman Empire in the future is going to be involved confirming some type of a covenant. And this would be a European leader, not an American. Now, it doesn't mean Americans could not be involved. But is the Trump deal of the century, this Daniel 9:27 deal? No. Because first of all, we see the person who's going to confirm the deal is going to be a European. And right now, the European Union said no. Okay? Now, it's possible they could change their mind, or some leader there would, but for the time being, I would say this is not the deal. Secondly, this deal in the Bible has a 1-week time period put on it. Now, most prophecy watchers, including Catholic and Protestant ones, consider this 1 week to be a 7-year period of time. Well, I read over the Trump administration deal, and they don't have anything like that in there. Well, they do have some kind of a probation they put the Palestinians on, which the Palestinians wouldn't like, but it's not this particular deal. There's no temporal aspect of it in terms of this will last so long or whatever. Now, also, I would say, as far as the Palestinians gaining more land, that is consistent with biblical prophecy, but it ends up, the Bible prophecy actually shows that Palestinians are going to get some lands that were not on that map that we pulled up for you before. Now, as far as the Palestinians getting part of Jerusalem, that's consistent with prophecy. Jerusalem is going to be divided again. You can read about that in Zechariah 14:1-2. But there's already social division in Jerusalem. I visited it and saw that. Of course, there's political division, which will ultimately be likely enforced by outside armies. But while the armies are going to be there in the future, supposedly to protect Israeli interests, the Bible shows that Jerusalem is going to be trampled by Gentiles. And let me read that. Let's go to Daniel. Let's read Daniel chapter 11, verse 31 first, and then we'll get to something that Jesus said in Luke. Daniel 11, verse 31 says, "And forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifice and place there the abomination of desolation." Now this is a prophecy that was fulfilled initially by Antiochus Epiphanes, which also has future application. And what this means is the king of the north is going to be in the Jerusalem area with some type of an army. And this king of the north is a European power, by the way. We have more information on that at the COGwriter.com website as well as the ccog.org website. But this is something Jesus said actually to watch for. In the book of Luke, Luke chapter 21, starting in verse 20, let's read something that Jesus said. "But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know its desolation is near. Then let those in Judea flee to the mountains, and let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter her." So we see that when Jerusalem is surrounded by armies, it's going to be a time to flee. But sadly, in the end times, most Christians aren't going to accept this, basically because of lukewarmness, and basically because the armies are going to be there and claim they're there for peaceful purposes. And so I think people will be deceived. Now, as far as the Trump-Kushner deal this century goes, it's certainly not the biblically prophesied deal. But parts of it could be included in the deal that will happen. Well, since the Palestinians rejected the deal, and the fact that peace tends to come mainly after wars, expect some type of regional conflict to be included before that deal actually happens. But the fact, however, that peace deals continue to be proposed in the area, and the fact that the Bible prophesies some type of a peace deal for the area, should show biblical skeptics that the Bible is true and biblical prophecies are going to come to pass. Because the Bible says the deal is going to happen, and we keep seeing more and more proposals. And we are getting closer to the time that the Daniel 9:27 peace deal is going to be confirmed, but we're not there yet. But those who believe the Bible should realize that the Trump deal of the century is not it, but that steps are being taken place consistent with biblical prophecies, and you can rely on the Bible. A deal will come to pass over there, but currently, as proposed, the Trump administration deal is not it. This is Dr. Bob Thiel for the Bible News Prophecy Channel.